this is of the Lord. Kids being shot down in the streets, cold-blooded, and then we protest for peace. Man, this is of the Lord. Still being downgraded as a people. You a fool if you really think we equal. Man, this is of the Lord. What's the reason behind us losing the battle? Because he chose us when we broke the commandments. Man, this is of the Lord. Black man, it's time to wake up out that sleep. Get your mind right and stand up on your feet. Man, this is of the Lord. So you gotta be asking yourself this question. All these tragic situations, all these murders that's been happening, how comes it seems that these things only take place in our community? The robbing, the killing, the black on black crime, perpetual hatred, no unity. This earth thing was given to you and me, but now we're living in poverty. No love for each other, we hate our own colors.
So I have it up on the screen. I'm going to zoom in just so that you can see the title. And this too is a digital copy. And I'm going to zoom back out so that I can navigate the pages. It reads, many Jews also are scattered over this region. Some natives, boasting themselves of Abraham's seed, inhabiting both sides of the river Neger. Now, you may be looking at the screen and wondering why I'm not pronouncing that Niger. That's because back in the day, it wasn't called Niger. That's a relatively modern pronunciation of it. It was actually called nigger. And that's where the word nigger, the derogatory term comes from in the States. And that's because of the slaves that were gathered from the river Niger Delta. It says, let me start again. It says, many Jews also are scattered over this region. Some natives boasting themselves of Abraham's seed, inhabiting both sides of the river Niger. Others are Asian strangers who fled thither either from the desolation of Jerusalem by Vespasian or from Judea, wasted and depopulated by the Romans, Persians, Saracens, and Christians. Let me just remind you, he's the cosmographer and geographic printer of the king. So this isn't just some guy, right? This is what we refer to as a high value reference. And are divided into several tribes, having no dominion, though both wealthy and numerous. So let me just stop here, just to kind of review what we've read so far. So this quote tells us that many Jews were on the west coast of Africa. They were in the Niger River region, and also that the Jews that were in the west coast of Africa were not only just the ones that were placed there by the Portuguese, but they were also the Jews that fled from all these various places, like from Jerusalem, from the Romans, from the Persians, from the Christians, and so forth. Having no dominion, though both wealthy and numerous, but despised of all nations. Despised of all nations.
We don't worry for the magra. No, I provide.
Kelly spraying through the Benjis, nigga.
Me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai, yeah, me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai, me and the Mosai, yeah, me and the Mosai. I'm so low, my walk on that road is me and the Mosai. Keep you from us, just a little levy. Spread the gospel through the hood, doing it through rapping. feel just like me and God trapping souls, bringing the truth to the people, telling what they never been told. You sitting on gifts you were giving and doing nothing with them. I swear that you niggas is bold. It's bad you know. I know that some of you think that I'm playing with completion. I'm not. I'm ready to drop. Been whipping the work in the studio, serving it out to the block. Tried to live life on my own and I found that it's not what I thought. A place to a higher, but Hashem Yeshaya, my soul not for sale, it was already booked. I'm ready for y'all to stop trying to stop easy, trying to say he wicked when really he not. It's really a plot, but you to wait, you in the dark to try to come take what you got. Woo, listen, the truth hit hard, harder than a gamble. Better be known as a saint than your favorite rapper. Michael Jackson bad, no melodrama. Random, but it's still just me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Yeah, me and the Most High. Yeah, me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. Yeah, me and the Most High. Me and the Most High. I'm so low. My walk on this road is me and the Most High. I'm so low. My walk on this road is me and the Most High.
Despised of all nations. And this next quote comes from, let's see, you can see the book. There's Portuguese exploration to the west and the formation of Brazil. But this is another high value reference. So this reference comes from, and I'm going to butcher his name, but it's Garcia de Resende. And this guy is the official chronicler of King John. All right, so he's the chronicler of the king. So let's see if Garcia de Resende says anything different than what John Ogilvie, who's the cosmographer of the king, says. The king had allowed Jewish refugees from Spain, from where they had been expelled, to remain in Portugal only in return for payment of an enormous ransom. We read that in a different reference as well. It says, in 1493, those who could not pay had their children taken away from them, baptized by force, and deported to St. Thomas. Those who could not pay had their children taken away from them, baptized by force, and deported to St. Thomas in order to be raised as Christians and to help populate the island that the king had just leased. In order to be raised as Christians. And I'm just going to skip to the last sentence here. And it says, nothing is known of their further fate, although later chroniclers attribute the thriving sugar production on the island to the talents of these deported children and their offspring. So this one, this reference tells us that the Portuguese sent the children, took the children away from the Jews, baptized them by force, and put them into slavery. And this is just another, just a side note here, just to kind of show you that the a description of the Portuguese community. So the very last sentence on this page, I don't have a page number. I'll try to get you that page. I'll get you that page number. And it says, the documents also describe the evolution of the black Portuguese communities in Guinea and the islands, as well as the slave trade and the way it was organized, understood, and justified. So just wanted to call this out to show you that the communities were black. The name of this book is A Narrative of the Persecution of Hipólito Joseph de Costa, Volume 2. For the Jews that didn't want to embrace the Roman version of Christianity, they would be arrested and then by the Inquisition officers, and they would be tortured, and they would try to wrestle a confession from them, and then either burn them at the stake or they would ship them off somewhere. So the purpose of this reference is to tell us where the those that were convicted by the Inquisition. We want to use this reference to tell us where the convicted Jews were sent. And she shall be, and this is just kind of reading off the punishments, and she shall be sent to the galleys. And if a female, she shall be exiled to the island of Principe, West Africa, St. Thomas, West Africa, or Angola. And this one is, we kind of catch this one mid-sentence here, but it says, shall be condemned to the same punishment of whipping, and shall be exiled for the same period to the kingdom of Angola or some parts of Brazil. I think this one's mid-sentence too. Let's see, it says, and shall be sent to the galleys or exiled to St. Thomas or Angola. And this one's another one, exiled to the island of Principe, St. Thomas, or Angola, West Africa. Shall be exiled for as many years to Brazil or Angola, and shall be exiled to St. Thomas, Angola, or Brazil. And there's a few more here, and it's pretty much the same thing. You'll see St. Thomas, Angola, or Brazil. According to Deuteronomy 28, you can actually use the curses to find or identify the people of the children of Israel today, because it's supposed to be a perpetual curse. So I did want to point out one of the curses in Deuteronomy 28, and you can actually should be able to see it there on your screen. And one is Deuteronomy 28 verse 32, and where it says, "Thy sons and thy daughters." So as we do a quick review, I want us to focus in on the children of the Jews that are on the west coast of Africa. I want us to focus in on the children. Just pay attention to references about children, sons, and daughters. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. And thine eyes shall long, and failing with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they, the sons and daughters, shall go into captivity. Just want to show you and kind of refresh your memory on the west coast of Africa in Guinea. So here's a outline of the Guinea territory on the west coast of Africa, just in case you're confused as far as what it looks like. So here's what it looks like. Angola is right below Guinea there, so it's pretty much the whole west coast of Africa. So this entire territory, all this yellow here, that's where the Jews were sent, and that the descendants of these guys were the children. It was the children that were sent here from the west, from Portland, or from the king of Portugal. So again, we see that it was the children that were taken away from the Jews, from the parents, and sent to the west coast of Africa. If you can kind of just sit back and think about that for a while, what that must have looked and felt like. This is can be found in Deuteronomy, right? Because we read that before. Deuteronomy 28, I believe, was 41. It said that the children would go into captivity. So here, we're actually seeing it play out in these references. Okay, just wanted to make sure that you keyed in on the fact that it was the children that were sent over to the west coast of Africa, and that knowing that, you can begin to see how a race of people, can began to be separated from their history, right? Because they're separated from their parents, and they're being raised to be something else. Now, I'm going to review a reference by Hannah Adams before as a background here. So Hannah Adams, she wrote it in her book in the 1800s as well. She wrote that the Jews that lived in Portugal and Spain professed to be from the tribe of Judah. So what that means is that the Portuguese and the Spanish understood that the Jews in their territories were from Judah. Why is that significant? Well, when we look at maps of the west coast of Africa, and you may have seen this map before, but the thing here is that, this is basically the slave coast. You can see where it says slave coast here at the bottom. And then at the top, there's another name for it. It says Kingdom of Judah or Slave Coast. So there was two names given to this territory. But the question is, who gave this sliver of land that name? Like, who called this this area here the Kingdom of Judah? Just think about that for a moment. So, and if you're, probably if you're guessing that it was made possibly the Portuguese, well, let's not guess. Let's look at the references. Now, this reference comes from a book called Africa and Its Inhabitants, Volume 2. And this comes from page 410. Do want to point out that above I do have a map here. It's another French map. I didn't have the details here, but you can also see that it's also calling the slave coast the Kingdom of Judah. So if we look at a reference on page 410, it says, skipping to the second sentence, it says, the old writers called it Judah, and its inhabitants were said to be Jews, while the neighboring river Alala, whose real name is Ephra, became the Euphrates. During the flourishing days of the slave trade, from 16 to 18,000 were annually transported from Judah, as the Portuguese called this place. Going to our next quote, and this quote comes from, you can see the name there, but this is a quote from a French book, and it comes from page 272. And let's read it. It says, Judah, Wida, and has different names there, but Judah is an ancient city frequented since the 16th century by Portuguese slave traders who gave it its name. Its inhabitants were called Judaic, and indeed they were regarded as a remnant of the scattered tribes of Israel. All right, so we can see here that the Portuguese gave the slave coast the name Kingdom of Judah. Okay, just wanted to establish that. And as a cross check, this is just another reference kind of thrown in there just to hammer home the point that these Jews were in fact black Jews. A remarkable fact in the history of Luango and the Empire of Congo is that the country, according to a statement which was fully credited by Oldendorp himself, a writer of most correct judgment and of unimpeachable veracity. So this is an upstanding guy, right? Is basically what the William Armistead is saying. It says, contains many Jews settled in it, who retain their religious rights and the distinct habits which keep them isolated from the other nations. Though thus separate, let's pay attention here, it says, though thus separate from the African population, they are black. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. We don't need any interpretation around that, right? So they are black and resemble the other Negroes in every respect as to physical character. So basically, they look like them, but they're Jews. It says, it is probable in allusion to this case that Pennington, Pennington's another author during the time, in his book, which is called Textbook, says, the descendants of a colony of Jews originally from Judea, okay, settled on the coast of Africa are black. with the Jews being on the west coast of Africa, we saw that on some maps it was called the Kingdom of Judah, or the Slave Coast. What you may not know is that there were other names that were given to that territory or that area, and these other names actually shed light on who the people were there. Okay, so you'll see I have a map on the screen, and you can see where it says it's giving you three names for this region. So Udan, Lam, or Negro land. So Udan, Lam, or Negro land. So let's read a reference about Udan. So see your reference on the screen. That's the title and book. Authors on there as well. You can see the publication date. And just wanted to point out where it says the Jews of Udan are, according to my informers, divided into many large and small tribes. And then it gives a quote from Bashal. Now Bashal is an African, black African in Africa, and he tells us why the Jews are there. It says they they are not esteemed like us, for they are a people hardened in their sins and obstinate in their infidelity. It says the anger of God is upon them. So they knew that God's anger was upon them. And it says, and therefore are they given to the rule of the Muslims. So it was their understanding that God's anger was upon them because they had broke God's laws, and that they were given to the Muslims to do with as they will. All right, and this is just another quote, just to call attention to the description of the Jews. It's actually another Oldendorp quote where it says, "A fact worthy of the attention of travelers is that, according to Oldendorp, the kingdom of the Wango contains black Jews scattered throughout the country. They are despised by the Negroes who do not even deign to eat with them. They are despised by the Negroes who do not even deign to eat with them."
Solo, rolling 4D, rocking y'all shit in my OG. I feed the flock to lose no sheep, yeah, no sheep, no little Bo Peep. X5 and 29, I choose the father over man every time. Like coke addicts, I drop heavy lines, no word, all actions, pantomime. They said I never seen a Judah with a flow like that. I said I never seen a Judah with a glow like that. He gave me seeds that I never seen grow like that. Track 5 bars, gas about to blow like that. I'm good, am I lonely? I let the father build up my team. I go where he shows me. I need no blind guy to show me. Matthew 15, verse 14, he told me.
They are despised by the Negroes who do not even deign to eat with them. So we're getting closer to the end of it. Just want to run through these references. So this reference, hopefully you saw the title screen there. But here it says, Yehudi, a place of great trade. This place is reported to be inhabited by one of the lost tribes of Israel, possibly an immigration from the tribe of Judah. Yehuda in African Arabic signifies Judah. Yehudi signifies Jew. It is not impossible that many of the lost tribes of Israel may be found dispersed in the interior regions of Africa, when we shall become better acquainted with that continent. All right. You should see the title and the author on your screen. So it looks like the Nautical Magazine. Again, this is from the 1800s. I'm just going to scroll down so that you can see the author as well. This paragraph, it says, Barbert states that the reign of, you can look at that as King John II, about the close of the 15th century, it says large numbers of Jews were expelled from Portugal and taken to the coast of southern Guinea. Again, just want to point out, southern Guinea is on the west coast of Africa. So again, what we're seeing is that reference after reference confirms that the Portuguese placed large numbers of Jews on the west coast of Africa. So at this point, we can look at this as an established fact. I think at this point, we're beyond This being theory, right? This is an established fact.
The free, but the home of the slave. The spirit of truth, it'll open your grave. God's chosen people, we still live in Egypt. Pharaoh was president, Esau was lethal. Patiently waiting for Christ to redeem us. We live in captivity, thinking it's freedom. Blaming the white man, his real name is Edom. Keeping God's laws is the way to defeat him. It's time you awake for too long. You've been sleeping, your heritage stolen by demons and heathens. Spiritual Babylon, we're full of evil. Mentally dead, cause his doctrines deceive you. Pushing this truth is the end of his kingdom. Black man, rise and return to your kingship. Living the prophecy as it was written. Jacob he loved, but Esau he gon' kill. Destruction is coming now sooner than later. Divided we fall, but together we make it. To us it belongs the confusion of faces. Descendants of Jews that came off the slave ships. Do you not know who you are? You are the greatest people that ever walked the face of this earth. The Most High God created you to be gods on this earth. But you broke your God's commandments that have been lowered to the bottomless pits of hell, suffering these plagues and these curses. But the Most High God has sent forth his prophets in these last days, commanding you to awake out of your sleep, Israel. It is time.